if Microsoft or Amazon doubles in a year, that would be big news, right? Any major company. But you could double your business in a year and it would not make the front page news. You can grow 10 times, it would not make the front page news.
Yeah.
But it sure would affect your family. Sure would affect your lifestyle personally.
This is Crisis Cast 2020 with me, Toby Goodman, a podcast where I get timely wisdom from experts in life and business. These guests will answer my 5 questions, sharing wisdom and insights to help you and me get through this global shitstorm. Today on Crisis Cast 2020, an American living in Israel. Dov Gordon is a great man. He's a husband, a father of 6, and a deeply caring entrepreneur. He's taught me a lot about relationships, and without him, I doubt this podcast would have happened. So I'm happy to share him with you today. In this chat, he talks about his personal preference for mastery over charisma, what probably won't happen if you double your income during the pandemic, and also attempts to answer the question, what is love? Here's Dov Gordon. Before we start the show, I have something for you if you identify as pod curious. It's perfect for you if you're an expert, consultant, or business owner. Maybe you're wondering if podcasting is worth the effort, especially now, or perhaps you've tried podcasting in the past but have been disappointed with the results. In this free guide, Podstar, I'll share the exact 7 steps we use to help publish over 2,000 podcasts each month. To get instant access, go to podcastnetworksolutions.com. Dov Gordon, welcome to Crisis Cast 2020. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Toby.
So you're in Israel. So my first question is, what's been your experience on a local level of the pandemic so far? Just give me a quick overview of what's happening there.
So far, what are we? We're recording this on April 29th, 2020, right? So we've had some kind of lockdown for the last 7 or 8 weeks, I think. And I've been working from home during that period of time. I technically could go to my office and work from the office, but all the kids are home. Wife is home. And I figured that I kind of like it to a degree. There's a certain flexibility. We have a nice yard, so I get, go out in the yard, walk around there, do some gardening, take breaks during the day. I just, right before this, I was making a popsicle stick ice boat with my kids, the 2 youngest daughters. So, me personally, it's not that bad. That's my personal impression. The rules have been fluctuating. It depends on, earlier it was stricter. There were a few days of total lockdown in certain places. But for the most part, businesses are closed, stores, that is. But most of what I do is on the internet, outside the country. Other than where I'm working, I haven't seen that much of a difference personally.
Okay. So tell me about, you're working from home. You have quite a few kids. How's that going, just adjusting to being in? It sounds like you're having fun, but have you had to change your hours and stuff?
Not really. Slightly. I've voluntarily made changes, so I'm around more, which is nice. I like that. I'd like to think that they like that. Some of them probably do sometimes, and other times not, right? But my older kids were sent home from school because their schools, they usually are away during the week, and they're closed. So I think that's actually giving us some extra time with the older teenagers, which I think is actually a good thing, for parents to have a closer eye and be able to dip in on this or that and have an opinion and teach this or that skill.
So what are the ages of the kids you have?
19, 17, almost 15, almost 13, and almost 10 and almost 8. So we've got 6 wonderful kids, and everyone is a absolute wonder. They're just, kids are great. I know that's a lot for most people to even comprehend, but we wouldn't give up any of them.
Yeah. I can imagine you wouldn't want to give up any of them, but I'm okay with 2.
That's right. You should try 6.
No, I'm all right, thanks. Property's pretty expensive here in London. Anyway, right. So tell me about you. You're not originally from Israel. You came from the US. So I was wondering if you're having any kind of reflection on any past crisis. A lot of people that I've spoken with, people that you and I both know, have reflected back on mainly the economic impact of 9/11 or or the crisis of 2008 with the financial meltdown and stuff. Are you seeing any similarities with what's happened in the past?
I don't know that I could say. I mean, I've been here pretty much for 21 years now. So I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I was not there on 9/11. I was actually in Jerusalem. I was at a meeting in a hotel lobby with somebody. There's some kind of a TV playing in the back of the account. I don't know, somewhere off to the side. And someone ran in off the street and said, "Quick, switch to CNN." And as I recall, that was between the first tower and the second tower, and I just didn't know what to make of what we were watching.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I was really just getting started then, so everything was difficult. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't necessarily know about that. 2008. The first 7-8 years of what I was doing was really a struggle. And interestingly, at that particular point, I'd actually thought about. Had done some interviews with consulting firms, trying to see if it made sense for me to join a consulting firm. And I had an interview, like it was, I think, the Thursday before Lehman Brothers collapsed, which I think was a Sunday or Monday. I don't remember exactly. So there, that was my last real attempt to get a job as a consultant, and fortunately, it didn't work out. So yeah, there were always ups and downs, but I personally, for my business to do really well, and I think this is true for you, it's true for almost all of our clients who are mostly on the smaller side, right? Maybe if you have some bigger clients, maybe not. But for the average business, that's solopreneur who's looking to make low 6 figures to low 7 figures, you could double your business in a year and it will not make the front page, right? If Microsoft or Amazon doubles in a year, that would be big news, right? Any major company. But you could double your business in a year and it would not make the front page news. You can grow 10 times, it would not make the front page news.
Yeah.
But it sure would affect your family, sure would affect your lifestyle personally. And I think that the reason why it won't make that news is because it just doesn't, it's just not that big a story. And we really could control our own economy in a way that bigger companies can't. Like, if we need to hustle a bit more, and at this time, I think we do need to hustle a bit more, we could choose to hustle a bit more. We could choose to reach out to more people, have more conversations, take a leap, do certain things that we wouldn't necessarily do otherwise. That, you've started this podcast, right? It's you're meeting new people through this. You're getting to know people you knew a little bit better. When you get to know people, opportunities come up. That's how I think about it.
Yeah, I feel that way anyway. I feel that most of us who are self-employed, who are rowing our own boats, are way more prepared than the employed person, right? And your teaching and help has certainly helped me in that. So it's definitely worth mentioning. We'll continue to mention how great you are through this podcast, of course, Dove. Tell me...
Very, very kind.
So it's the least I can do. Or the most I can do. Who knows?
It's this coffee cup I have here. You see, I always use it says the Lucky Cup. Lucky Cup coffee. That's why.
Okay.
That explains everything.
Okay. It's the last thing I'd expect to hear from you, but cool. If that's what you're using, really, then that's good. Tell me...
You start selling them.
You should do, man. Tell me on a human level. I know what you're going to say to the first one, but let's group 2 and 3 together. How are we going to get through this as people? How are people going to get through this? And interested to know what the other side looks like. The edit to that question has turned into what you hope the other side looks like when we're out of the pandemic. A lot of people are telling me what they hope.
Well, I don't know what other people are telling you, but I hope that it looks like what it looked like beforehand, where we could fly on airplanes without worrying about it. We can go to hotels and conferences and meet people in person without having to be wearing masks all the time. I mean, that's certainly what I hope it looks like. Does anybody? What else have you heard? Any good, interesting answers to that? I'm wondering what else would that be?
You should certainly listen to the other episodes, Dave. A lot of the answers.
I've started to.
Thanks. The answers have been around how people behave, how people treat each other. The hopes being that people are more considerate, that kind of stuff.
Well, what I remember growing up in New York City, people were always nicer around the holidays, December holidays. People were always nicer, more polite. Manhattan is beautiful. I always liked Manhattan, although it could be it's not as clean and neat as it was then, back in the late '90s. But people will be people, and when they're feeling pressure and stress, there's two ways to go about it. There's to reach out to others and see how we can help, and then there's ways of kind of covering up and so on. I'm not one of these people who thinks that we're entering some kind of enlightened age where like now we're all becoming more conscious and all that. I think that human nature is the same today as it's been for the last thousands of years. And there are certain waves. Apparently, if you look through history, there are certain waves where we have, we have crises, we have pandemics, although nothing like this. Largely, what I mean is because of technology and the ability to communicate and the ability for someone to say one thing or tweet one thing, and then it's all around the world, and it may be completely false. So I think that there's definitely, we have groupthink, we have media. I don't think that the fundamentals are that different. The question is, what kind of wave are we in? What kind of wave are we in? And sure, it definitely is nice that people are lined up at the supermarket, standing 2 meters apart, being more patient and more respectful. But, it certainly wasn't worth it for that, in my opinion.
Yeah, right. Tell me about business then, because you're one of the most helpful people I know, and you're constantly doing things, you're constantly connecting with people. You're a marketing guy who cares about people. There's not too many of those people around. And I was very glad to find you in amongst the noise of the internet. What are you doing differently in your business other than working from home from a strategic, tactical point? What have you done? You're a proactive guy, so interested to know what you're doing there.
I'm mostly doing more of what I've been doing all along. I'm trying to balance my time between creating for the long run and making sure that we have what we need in the short term. Back in January, I believe it was January 2020, I got the domain profitablерelationships.com, and we're slowly shifting things over. So I've been getting up an hour or two early every day, spending so I can get a good block of 90 minutes or so before everyone else wakes up, and working on material for that site. And I don't know if there are any writers here. I mean, there are some times when I could just write an article or an email and it just flows, or a script for a video, it just flows right away. This, I'm trying to create a certain type of material, and I've written, dozens of pages and scrapped dozens of pages and reorganized the material and so on. So I think that's kind of the long-term thing. Short term is I'm focusing on really helping our clients. We've got some wonderful video clips that I've gotten permission to use from clients recently, because they really need help. Like, everybody needs help, and we need perspective. We need to be able to step back. So, I've had a couple of sessions with clients where at the end I asked them what they're taking away, and it was just so gratifying to hear what they said. The next day I emailed and said, "Hey, do you mind if I use that clip so people understand?" Well, for anybody thinking about maybe working with us, that they understand what it's about, that we actually do care, that we really do give the attention that we promise. Because there are so many out there who are just like coaching factories or consulting factories. They just want to get you in, move you across the assembly line, but they don't really get to know you. They don't really, hear who you are and what you're trying to accomplish and help you chart that path. And I mean, most of the people that I end up working with, it's after they've been through some of those. So, it really is doing people a service to be able to share that clip that was unrehearsed and unscripted, and people get a real sense of that. That's not created, but it's when things come up, you want to make the time to leverage it, to turn something good, so that it doesn't just vanish and then you forget, where was that? Where do I get that? And then lots of conversations, reaching out to people who I've come across, whether it's colleagues or potential clients that they've reached out to me. Maybe they didn't go ahead. I've refined my business model actually, over the last several months, or really the last 6 months, with a certain clarity and focus that I have not had previously. And that's given me the ability of selling, really several levels, from a rather low price to a significant price. And that enables me to offer to help people in different ways. So that's something else that I've refined. And that's something that people need to do, is refine, be flexible in what they're offering. I've definitely had people I've talked to who did not go ahead because of the current situation. And there are people that my sense is that if we weren't in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, they would have gone ahead. I can't know for sure, but they should have gone ahead, in my opinion. Not everybody fits that. I don't say it about everybody. I've been affected. I've got some of my clients have lost some or all of their clients. Others have not. And that's tough. And then they need to make, some critical decisions. Are they going to continue, with getting the help they need, or are they going to, roll up into a ball? Now, if you can't pay the food bill that month, that's one thing. But if you're afraid, like, oh, what's going to be in 3 months or 5 months? So I'm going to start saving, and I'm going to cut the coaching help that I'm paying for. That's probably not a very good idea, because coaching is about ensuring that your performance every single day is at peak. That's why we invest in coaching and getting help. It's not because, I expect that I'm going to get an immediate ROI by tomorrow or whatever it might be. Sometimes that's the case. If someone is dealing with a specific opportunity, you help them navigate it, help them close the deal. You got that. Other times, it's very much like in sports. There's the coach who's there watching you, helping you with practice every single day and at the games, right? You really want to make sure that you're showing up every day, performing at your peak. And then when it really matters, you're performing at your peak too. So, it's about being able to step outside your fears and get a clearer picture and make your decisions from where you want to be, not from the pressure that you might feel today. And so much of that has to do with how you interpret your situation, not necessarily the facts that happen.
Very good answer. Thank you. I'm just wondering, listening to you speak about all these various elements of what you're doing, you're creating your own stuff for the long run, you're servicing, working with, helping existing clients, and you're reaching out. You have some really good systems that you've taught me through various things that I've worked with you on around just making sure that you're spending enough time on each one. You're now building a completely new website with profitablерelationships.com. You said you're getting up earlier in the day, but equally you're at home with 6 kids. So do you have a very specific diarized situation with how you're apportioning time to all of these different tasks?
Some things, yes, and other things, there's an ebb and a flow. Obviously, they're, my regular obligations. They're booked on my calendar ahead of time. The coaching calls and meetings and sales calls that I may have with people who are thinking about it, those go in. The other things, there's, the projects, you need to make decisions. It's hard because I think, I don't know about you, but there are a lot, I assume the same is true for you and most people listening. There are about 10 times the number of things that I'd like to be doing than I have the time or capacity to be doing. So we need to make decisions. And that's always a challenge because there's always more to do than there is time to do it. So, like I've prioritized this project that I told you about before that I'm getting up early to work on. Yesterday I put in 2 90-minute segments, one early and then another one later in the day. I think it's finally coming together. So I just got to get it out. If I could, I'd probably just spend all day on it. But I can't. It's not just because I'm working from home. It's because I've got work to do that's not only creative. You need to balance the creative with doing stuff that has to be done today. I use a calendar. Block things off. I try to aim to have a handful of things that I'm going to do each day. Sometimes just business. A combination of business, personal. There's always the decisions that need to be made. And what I've learned over time is that you need to make your decisions before you sit down to work. You got to separate the planning and the doing. And I'm not perfect at it, but I've gotten a lot better.
Yeah. Well, you certainly taught me a few things. Tell me about
what did I teach you?
Well, you want me to reveal the whole thing?
Oh, all the secrets? I don't know.
All the secrets. So many secrets in the programs.
All this. You can reveal one. It's something you found helpful. I don't mind.
I'll tell you one thing that's really helped me that I've completely stolen from you and put back to my clients a number of times, always crediting you, of course, is that you talked once at some point, who knows when, in our many interactions, about the fact that people are very good at telling you what they don't want and not so good at telling you what they want. So that's been really helpful for me to try and push through and get clear about what I actually want. And I didn't really want to start a podcast 3 or 4 months ago before the pandemic happened, and I realized pretty quickly that it was the perfect thing for me to do, to be able to implement all of the things that I've been learning over the last few years, including stuff I've learned from you and many other great people. It's the perfect thing. is the perfect thing for me to do. So yeah, maybe I didn't want it, but actually it turns out that the results I'm getting from doing it are incredible. The thing that's come up in my mind since I've been listening to you speak is that you've moved away. You know, there's all of these words like resilient and pivot and all of that stuff. So you've moved away from dovegordon.net and you're building profitablelationships.com. What led that thing? Because you're not what you call a charismatic guru type, right? So you have this thing about speaking about charismatic gurus versus what?
Path of mastery.
Path of mastery, right?
Yeah. So again, as I alluded to earlier, in my first 7, maybe 8 years of growing my consulting and coaching business was a real uphill battle. I probably would have benefited from working for somebody else for the first few years, but who knows? And maybe my creative thinking is in large part due to the fact that I never did. But I would have had a better understanding of how business works if I had worked for an actual business first. So I definitely did take the long route, but I've certainly picked up other skills and understanding along the way that I would have never have gotten otherwise. So that, I have no regrets in that sense. But what I did realize is, like, I'm not a natural marketer or salesperson. I'm very skilled in certain areas, very good at what I do. I'm perhaps even talented in some areas, but not natural marketing and sales. And I think that's true for probably 85-90% of the people who are trying to sell consulting, coaching, expertise, professional services, is that you're good at what you do, you're not necessarily natural at marketing and selling. Many people have left the corporate world thinking, hey, I'm really good at this. I'm tired of the corporate bureaucracy. I'm tired of the politics, the backstabbing, the artificial constraints. I just want to do it on my own, and I'll have clients because I'm really good. And they discover that being really good is not enough to get clients. So one thing I do seem to be good at, though, as well, is like suffering through something, distilling the lessons down to the fundamentals, and then being able to teach that to people. So after suffering through many years, I came to recognize that there are actually really two paths to thrive as an independent consultant, coach, or expert. There's the path of the charismatic guru and the path of mastery. If you wake up in the morning and you get to Google and say, how do I get clients? You're going to end up on email lists and webinars, and everybody's going to be telling you something else, from Facebook evergreen, funnels, to podcasting, to joint ventures, to public speaking, to rebranding and writing a book. And it's endless. Instagram, it's endless. LinkedIn, and it's also overwhelming. And each one is telling you got to do it their way. And most of these people, their marketing or sales is built on the strength of on the back of a strong personality. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that when we try to follow their steps, when we try to follow their advice, the one thing that they cannot kind of give over is a celebrity type personality. And often they don't fully appreciate how much that's serving them. So if you're not that type of personality, you've got to recognize it. You've got to get off the path of the charismatic guru and get onto the path of mastery. The path of mastery, to me, is about understanding what really moves people to make their buying or no buying decisions, understanding how to get the attention and interest of an ideal client, understanding in a deep way, not in a superficial way, and then laying out your steps and your actions accordingly. It's also about understanding what your dream is, what your goal is. Most of my clients, they're not looking to scale, for 7 figures and scaling to 8 figures and 9 figures. Most of my ideal clients, they're looking for mid-6 to upper 6 figure, consistent revenue where they get to do great work, working with great clients, and also have a good life with some balance. And I think it's important to understand that their dream is not your dream. So let's stop following as if we had the same dream. Mastery is about mastering skills and mastering ourselves. We master the skills, the outer skills, to actually create value. Mastering ourselves so that we follow through, so that we do what we know how to do. That's the path of mastery. And it seems to me that that's the right path for 85 to 90% of people. And the sad thing is that we get stuck on the path of the charismatic guru because they're the most visible. And we don't know, many never get off. I have somebody going through my UA Force to be Reckoned With program now. Actually, this is a common story, so it's not just one person, but one guy spent $9,900 on some kind of coaching program before this. And he said to me when signing up, honestly, I learned more from their sales process and how they sold me into it than what I got from any of the coaching afterwards. And to his credit, we have to always be able to learn from every experience, but that's not what he signed up for. He didn't get the help that he wanted, and it's just really, that's unfortunately very common, because there are a lot of coaches or gurus who their main focus is in scaling their own businesses, and what that boils down to for most of them, and there are some exceptions, and I do know some exceptions, it's really like moving people along without enough of being sure that this is right for that person. This person has actually finished that step and is ready to move on. So that's that's the two paths to thrive as a consultant, an expert, professional service firm. And the key is to make sure you're on the right path. And if you belong on the path of the charismatic guru, good for you. Nothing wrong with it. And you can be an ethical business person that way, and serve people and be the celebrity. That's great. Not my personality.
No, and yet you are very, very good at helping people with their marketing if they are not looking to take selfies and post themselves all over Instagram. So that's good. Tell me, because you were so good at defining this, for me, I've had 2 kids in the last 6 years. You've had 6 kids in the last 20 odd years. Has what you want changed since that's all happened? Because it certainly has for me, and I'm just wondering how that's changed your journey. Clearly, having kids changes everything straight away. But how often do you reassess what you want?
Well, it's interesting. I don't know that it's changed that much, because kind of always expected to have kids. It wasn't like and I got married pretty young. I was 21. My wife was 21. I don't know that it's changed so much as I've just found that there are 3 roles that I play in life, and each one is constantly forcing me to get better, to become a better person. And that's being a husband, being a father, and being an entrepreneur. Every single role is constantly challenging me to get better, and each one challenges me in ways that the others can't. Like each kid challenges you in a way that nobody else can. And to me, there's a certain sense that I was once thinking about what is, let's see if I can articulate this clearly. What is love? And I don't mean like the romantic type, but I mean, let's love for a child, right? Love for a spouse. If I really get to see that person, I could really respect and appreciate who they are, or a friend also. Every friend, every person has the ability to bring out something in you that nobody else can. So each child is different. And one kid pushes this button in a way that others don't. And what does that do? It forces me to think and to reflect on myself. Like, why do I react that way? Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Why is he reacting that way? Why is she reacting that way? Is that a good thing? Or am I judging too quickly? And everybody is different. So I'm not saying this is the full answer of what is love is, but if I could wake up in the morning and, and look at my wife, look at each of my kids, my friends, and I can deeply appreciate how each one is giving me an opportunity to grow an aspect of myself that I could not grow without them. To me, that's an aspect of love. And, it's hard to remember that in the moment, for sure. Not pretending that it is. But even stopping to remember from time to time, it could stay with you for a few hours, or a day, and you exercise the muscle. So I don't know that so much has changed. Like, I think that maybe I've just become a little more mature in terms of, I don't think I was ever really going after, I was never going after kind of a glamorous lifestyle. I've never really admired celebrity. I've admired mastery. So I don't know that's aspects of that have changed, but certainly I'd say far more mature, far more understanding of how things actually work. And it's all about love.
That's the most Barry White I've ever heard you end any sentence, but very cool. Also, I was thinking about a British comedian, Frank Skinner, who often says, do you remember when people used to be on the TV when they were famous for actually being good at something? Which always makes me laugh. I could talk to you for a long time, but I respect your time. So I feel like you probably don't have more time. Like I've spoken to a few people that say, yeah, I've got loads of time on my hands now. Mainly people whose kids have left home. I don't get the feeling that you do have more time on your hands at the moment. But quickly anyway, I'm going to ask you, because I always enjoy recommendations from you. Is there anything you're reading right now or kind of studying right now?
That's interesting. I am reading a bunch of different books, which has been true for decades now. I'm always reading too many books at the same time. Let's see here. I tend to like biographies of, especially U.S. presidents, but not exclusively. That gives me 2 for 1. It gives me some really gripping and interesting stories about some fascinating people. And it also gives me a sense of history. They're tied in with a lot of history. Although I also have biographies of Churchill, who's kind of incredible what he accomplished in many different arenas. I'm reading Leadership by Doris Kearns Goodwin, which is really profile of 4 people. Some I've read. Lincoln, Roosevelt is where I'm up to so far. I've read about them separately, but it's an interesting book there. I'm actually reading a book that has not been published yet, that's going to be published soon, and it's called Mindful Millionaire, and that is by Lisa Peterson. So I actually have a pre-release copy, and I'll say this. When it comes out, I think it's supposed to come out in June or July, or I don't remember exactly. It might have been pushed off a little bit because of the coronavirus. But when it comes out, I do plan to recommend it because I've never been kind of drawn to the messaging about money blocks and so on, which is a big part of what she talks about. To me, I never knew what that even means. It just didn't talk to me. It talks to certain people, and that's fine, but not necessarily to me. But I had a real conversation with her, and I was just really impressed. Like there's a lot of depth and wisdom to her. So, and she'd mentioned her book, and I'd asked if I, could have a review copy because some common people that we know, and she sent it over. The Mindful Millionaire: Overcome Scarcity, Experience True Prosperity, and Create the Life You Really Want. Lisa Peterson, Leisa. It's good. It's not, it's not kind of woo-woo stuff. Not that I'm against all woo-woo. But I just find it to be very simple, real solid, kind of timeless psychology that we all need to work on, like kind of self-growth, self-mastery, and how that affects people's relationship to money, whatever that means. I'm still not sure I know what that means, but that's what I'm reading right now. So there you go.
Great answer. And
I bet no one else gave you that answer.
Well, they wouldn't, would they? Because I haven't got pre copies of books, right? But also
that's right,
speaks to the kind of person you are, which is very giving, sharing, open to promoting other people's work if you think it's good. One of the many good things.
There's no one expert or mentor who knows all the answers for any of us, because we're all charting our own path. I've heard the quote, I don't know who gets credit for it, but for me, because no one could do it alone, but no one could do it for you. We all need help, and there is no simple checklist. Just buy my checklist, my blueprint. This is how to succeed. We all need to really consolidate and collect from a number of different places, implement, execute, get feedback, get coaching, get mentoring, be around good colleagues who challenge us, who, one of the great things about, I think about profitable relationships, right? There are 4 types of profitable relationships as I see it. There's mentors. Everybody needs mentors and coaches because they help you see what you cannot see. They can help you master skills that rapidly, in processes, rapidly, without having to reinvent the wheel. And they can give you feedback on something, and they can spot in a few seconds what might take you 3, 4, 5 years to figure out on your own. That's really, really, really key. They can lead you through experiences that help you deeply understand things you already know and think you know, but you don't understand enough to live. That's what I think is, those are the roles of a mentor or coach. We all need colleagues. We need people who are on the same kind of more along at the same stage, more or less, on the same road and the same path. And one of the beautiful things about the right colleagues is that you find yourself giving them advice. And as you're giving that advice, you think to yourself, that's pretty good advice. I think I should follow it. And it's like holding up a mirror for yourself, right? And then there are recommenders. These are people who are in a position to introduce you, recommend you to an ideal client, ideal customer, and often it makes sense to have those types of relationships. And then there's the ideal client, and the ideal client, and that's an important thing that we talk about for years, is that you really have to go after the ideal client for you, because when you're working with an ideal client, you're excited to get up. They're challenging you because they're bringing opportunities that what they need your help with is something that often is pushing the envelope for you. No, not always, but it's always, because then you're probably always catching up. But there's always maybe a 20% where you've got to keep getting better. 80% is using your existing skills, but 20% you're going to have to figure some new things out. That's an ideal client, and they also appreciate you, and they value you, and they're able to pay you what you're worth. So those are the 4 types of profitable relationships that I've been thinking about as we're moving. We still do dovegordon.net. It's kind of like a soft, slow rebranding, moving over. So they're both live and both active, and use them both. But over time, it's going to be more and more about profitablelationships.com.
Great, man. Well, thank you. Thanks so much for your time. I had one more question you can answer quickly if you like, which is there anything you've seen perhaps on a local level or within the communities that you lead that's impressed or surprised you?
Anything I've seen that's impressed or surprised me? I mean, I'm always impressed with people who get up and try again. Get up, try another day. Maybe this is why I don't really connect with the celebrity type, because too much of it is fake. It's putting forward this image of near perfection. And I much prefer mastery. Mastery is somebody who has really paid a price to learn and master something, to internalize certain skills at a level that few have achieved, to be able to see patterns that enable them to leverage things that other people are unable to see. It's like the chess the chess grandmaster and someone learning how the pieces move. The ones learning how the pieces move is focused on all these pieces and how they move. The grandmaster looks at the board and they see patterns and they see forces. That's mastery. You don't get that by just having a pleasing personality, right. So, but everybody has stuff. Nobody has it all together. Nobody. And you just got to get up and face another day. And I think it's remarkable how fast people have adapted. And those who are struggling, you have to know that there's always a next small step that's right in front of you. And even if it hurts, we have to take that next small step. It hurts to stay where you are. What's that next small step? We always have that control. Even if the next small step is to shift how you're thinking about your situation, to shift your thoughts. So I just really respect anybody who gets up to face another day.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thanks so much for sharing all of that wisdom.
Thank you.
Really always enjoy listening to you speak, and you haven't disappointed.
Well, I appreciate that. It takes a wise person to appreciate wisdom, Toby.
That's it.
Because the fool hears wisdom and calls it foolish, right? Isn't that true?
Yeah, that's true. You're wise. I'm wise. We're all wise.
And all the listeners are.
Yeah, I'm certainly wiser from listening to all the people that I've managed to connect with, many of them thanks to you. So
yeah, we got a little thing. Can we give out some training?
Yes. Where can people find more about you? Let's go for it, because you've got so much goodness to give.
I put together a little training on how people can become what we call under the radar leaders in their industry, which is certainly relevant now more than ever, I think, because you're really you really can grow a strong business with several dozen to maybe 50 or 100 of the right relationships and connections. And at profitablelationships.com/crisiscast, you can go and get a short video training. I think it's a 4-minute video followed by a 10-minute video. Very practical, very simple. You literally could start it as soon as you're done. Like, you could start right away. So profitablelationships.com/crisiscast, which I know for me, I would want to know how to spell that. It's CRISISCAST. I'd probably spell it wrong.
Great. Thank you. That's very, very smooth. I shall make sure all the links are in the show notes as well. So we'll direct lots of traffic to that new site.
Somebody once said that anyone who can't spell a word in English at least 2 or 3 ways is not very bright.
Yeah, I had an issue with someone whose was /scheduler or schedule or something. There was a lot of issues there. So I just made them change it to book. Anyway, nice one. Thank you, Dov. I'll put everything in the notes. Cheers, man.
Appreciate it. Have a good day.
This episode of Crisiscast 2020 was produced by me in London and Kate Astrakhan in Michigan, with artwork by Ryan Field and sound design by Lee Turner. Crisiscast 2020 is a production from Podcast Network Solutions, a full-service podcast production company who are ready to help you plan, record, produce and promote your message with podcasting. To find out more and grab your copy of Podstar if you're feeling pod curious, visit us at podcastnetworksolutions.com.